Telstra's not attempting to derail the whole bid process by, what we saw with Opel, where it went through the courts.
Look, we never sought to derail Opel. All we sought was information. All we actually wanted to know was what had gone on and why things had changed. So we never sought to derail it. It derailed itself because it was never a bid that would stand up. I mean, if you look at the people involved in that, they've made a lot of promises to Australians over the years and delivered very few of them. They promised to make their cable network a competitive telephony network to Telstra. The first call that they made on it was to emphasise that it would be, first use of it, was to emphasise it was to be telephony. It's not being used. They went into Opel, they said they were going to do certain things. They didn't have the technology, they didn't have a chief executive, they didn't have a business plan, they didn't have any money. So it fell apart. They've been selling access to their 3G network at a rate beyond which they're prepared to invest in capacity in the 3G network. I think you really need to ask some questions about capacity, whether promises are worth very much if there's no track record of delivery.
If Telstra decides not to submit a bid, or if that eventual bid is rejected, what will it mean for Telstra's long-term viability if another company builds the NBN?
Well, look, this has been, I think, the most complex issue that I can have dealt with, whether on Telstra or anywhere else in the time that I've been involved in business and public life. It is a complex four-dimensional puzzle. And as I said, time is the fourth dimension in this, because as you move along the continuum, the viability of the project changes. Technology changes, alternative platforms change, all sorts of things happen. The cost of capital, the access to capital move quite dramatically, as we have seen. And the longer this thing gets delayed, the less viable it becomes. Because if there is 100 megabits available on a radio network out there within not too many years, it may not provide all of the technology that people would want or all of the capacity they would want, but it saps the viability of a network like this in commercial terms, because it takes away a lot of volume. Now, we and our competitors, if they choose to invest, have got access to competing platforms, to competing opportunities. It is a competitive market. I was very specific in here in saying we don't require any prohibition on our competitors building whatever they like in terms of competing networks with us, if they want to go out and do that. If they want to upgrade their cable network, if they want to upgrade their radio network, to go out and compete with us. Now, we have the same options, and we have, as part of the management of this decision and getting to the point where we've got to, obviously thought through very carefully how Telstra would respond in a whole range of other circumstances. And, we are able and prepared to respond.
I'd like to make this the last question.
Ruth Williams from The Age. You spoke before about the different variables as far as the costing goes, the Australian dollar, the capital. And I note the use of up to $5 billion in its own capital to fund up to 90% of the population.
Yep.
So it's $5 billion as far as you're willing to go. Does that then mean there could be a significant shortfall below 90%? And will you seek any kind of assurances from the government that they would be prepared to put in more money if there's a cost overrun?
Look, what we've done is put a high-level proposal in place to give the sort of scope of what we would be able to do. There are so many moving parts in this that I don't want to particularly get into any part of that. It would just not be sensible to do so. What we need is to be able to take this process to the next stage, where we can get involved in those detailed discussions about, if you move this bit, what happens to that bit? If you move this one, what happens over here? And really, it is incredibly complex from an engineering and financial perspective. Uptake is so important to this. You have to start generating funds very quickly in order to be able to fund the next stage. You have to be able to meet your targets on each stage before you can go to the next one. So we have put very high level scope in that document, and that's at this stage as far as we would be able to go until we know a lot more.